is great to be back at TG Central on the West Coast instead of, well, we were kind of on the East Coast of Tasmania last week. And it is October 5th. We're into the last quarter of the year, and it has been kind of an adjustment getting back to life here. It was sort of very surreal, the whole thing with going to Australia last week, because of course it materialized very quickly at the last minute. Well, a couple days before I left, and turned out to be a lot of long flights. I won't bore you with the story too much about getting there, but it was about 32 hours door to door getting there, and about 48 after on the way back due to airplane malfunctions. And but you know, when you think about it, I'd rather wait for a plane that they're pretty sure is going to be safe going up in the air. So just had to make do with it. It was really fun hanging out with Jameela and Matt and the rest of the TG team that I have never seen, only spoken to in few spots. So we do have a great crew of people putting work in at really to up the site now. So I really want to encourage you to. We've resurrected the thread about that started about 4 years ago on site suggestions. So please check that out. I didn't get to this before I start this. Before you see this, I'm gonna try some tests on the. I hear the uploaders are working, the busking and the student review one. So let's hope that is all. Jameela tells me it's good, and want to get those rolling. Let's see. What did I want to talk about today? That little lick I played at the end of that messing around with the blues in A. Hope some of you had a chance to listen to those couple of songs by Gypsy that I put up. They're just lately that was playing in my house for a couple of days, and I just really like those guys. May have to get to a lesson on them. Today, it's another kind of obscure progressive psychedelic band that's on the on repeated play, Sweetwater. So I'll tell you more about them later too. There's a really interesting thing about them. Oh, why do I have too much other stuff? I should not go off on this tangent. But all I can tell you about Sweetwater is they were supposed to open Woodstock, and they didn't get there in time. They got pulled over. I wonder why somebody would pull over a van that looked like it was full of musicians. And they got there a little bit late, and so Richie Havens went on first. They ended up being second. Okay, let's see. I had a few things. Well, let's talk first about... Where do I want to go? A couple of new songs this week. We had another Decembrist song from Vanessa, Rocks in the Box, and Max, man, what you can do with a looper. I hope you guys have had a chance to check this out, because never mind. I should have messed with that. But pulling out a Herbie Hancock tune, Watermelon Man. So kind of a fun. It's basically a 12-bar blues type thing with just simple little melody and then improv over it. So, okay. So let's see. What was going on the forum? The blues links disappearing. What was I talking about there? Oh yeah. We've had some other things kind of disappear every once in a while, and so I think sometimes links that we put in threads get yanked because YouTube moves them or takes them down or something like that. So I'm glad somebody brought it to attention that they were missing, and dug up more Savoy Brown, and I guess the English pronounce it Savoy, but I'm not sure. In California here, we always call them Savoy Brown. And nails. I want to talk about nails because Max had a great suggestion about vitamin E stuff. I mean, I think most people know that is supposed to be really good for it, but he's right. Putting stuff straight on your nails, which I haven't luckily had to do yet, but I've always known that it was a possibility and something that I would want to make a habit of doing somewhere down the line if my nails ever started getting shredded. So that was a good little thing that was happening right there. Let me tell you, I have one more thing I want to talk about first, and then I'll tell you about the whole Aussie adventure with like what all we did there. One of them is the thread about the Beatles cover band, who's right now their name is escaping me, but I put a little post in there about a local band here that has done some of that stuff. They were called the White Album Ensemble. They got together 10 or 12, maybe even 15 years ago, with the express purpose of going out and performing the White Album from top to bottom. And now there were 8 guys in the band, and that's a reasonable number of what it would take to do it. And they weren't necessarily going to try to sing or look like the Beatles, but they at least were going to try to do everything that was on the album. They did a fabulous job, including they had to break out a tape recorder at one point and do something that sounded like Revolution Number 9, of course. Pause for dramatic effect, and you probably knew what I was about to say. But and so they did have Beatles voices and Yoko's voice and all that other stuff that happened. But it was dazzling to see these guys just whip through this whole thing live. And these were some of the best musicians from, they weren't all from Northern California, but these were people who'd spent their whole lives, really working on their craft, and it was really neat to see. And like I said in the thread earlier today, that the Beatles really couldn't have done this without the technology of the day wasn't there to where it would be reasonable for them to take an orchestra with them. Or take the synthesizers with them that they had in there. And when you listen to especially the rooftop performance, you realize that John in particular couldn't pay a lot of attention to detail. I mean, it would take him a lot of takes to get things right, whether it's the lyrics or the chords or the strumming or whatever. So when they were just performing easy songs like in the rock and roll days, it was no big deal. But I don't think he could have kept assuming it was him. Well, there's a lot of stuff that he wouldn't have been able to do that they would need him to do on stage. Dear Prudence, he would have to play the finger-picking part of that, and that would be a challenge. It would not come out very good. Okay, I shouldn't blast into the icons like that, but anyway, so it is pretty neat. And this band, the White Album Ensemble, I put a couple of posts up, or a couple of things up about them, and they eventually did Sgt. Pepper, and one time they went out and did Rubber Soul and Revolver, and they did Abbey Road later on too. So it was kind of cool. You'd see these, and that these guys put months and months of rehearsal time into being able to perform them. So pretty neat little thing that's going on there. Okay, I should play something. That's what I played last week. You know what? I've been trying to resurrect some of my songs, and here's one that I have not been able to. Well, never mind. I got to go relearn that. I think I mentioned a little while ago that in a few weeks. Well, now it's about 5 weeks, I guess, till I'm going to Arizona to help in the inaugural meeting of the Phoenix Guitar League. So I'm starting to think about I might need an hour's worth of material to play again, which I am very rusty on. Don't let that happen. Okay, let me tell you about what happened in Australia, because this turned out to be really fun. So I left California Saturday afternoon, got to LA, waited about 5 or 6 hours there, where I was met by Jameela and Mary, one of our traveling companions. And we hung out at LAX, got on a plane that got us to Sydney. I don't know, it was like 12 hours or something like that. And it was about 7 o'clock in the morning then. There we had about a 6-hour layover in the Sydney airport, and it was pretty good because it took us 2 to 3 to kind of get we had to claim our bags, go through customs, and then we had to change terminals. Anyway, it took us about 3 hours of the 6-hour layover to be ready to settle down and grab a seat in a restaurant and sat there for a little while chatting and walked around a bit, and then hopped on about a 2-hour flight from Sydney to Hobart, which is the capital of Tasmania. We got picked up and met Matt at the house and had a quick dinner, as I recall, and kind of called it a night. It'd been a lot of travel. And Tuesday got up and there were not all of a sudden, but a group of about 10 or 12 of the behind the curtain team at TG and the other sites, our other music sites, the keyboard site and stuff, are all kind of like getting reinvigorated right now. So got to meet a lot of these people, and that was really fun. Wednesday did a little bit more of the same thing. We had big lunches and dinners, and like business meetings. Ooh, so different than my real life. And Wednesday, yeah, Wednesday, rented a car and resurrected luckily it wasn't so weird driving on the other side of the road again, because I'd done a little of that in Ireland, actually a lot of it in Ireland back this summer, and drove to the top of a mountain there, Mount Wellington, visited a brewery called the Cascade Brewery that's been like in operation since the 1820s or something like that. It goes way back to, it's the oldest brewery in Australia. And then hung around town a little bit. There's a little the little wharf area there that is, or the port area that was really neat. Some cool businesses and food stuffs and stuff. And the next day drove out to, so Thursday, it was a beautiful day, just like it is here finally in California. It was 70 degrees and clear and sunny. Drove out to Port Arthur. There's a famous, famous for a couple of reasons, but the main one particular to this is that it was one of the sites of the prisons that people were sent to there, and it's kind of it's like going to Alcatraz, which I still haven't done, but I got to get on that, because it's kind of weird walking around places like that are just so beautiful, but then they're so, the stories and the torment, I guess, that went on there. Stopped at another little place called the Tasmanian Devil Unzoo. I'll try to get some pictures up there, but so I got to pet some kangaroos that seem to live. That's called an unzoo because it's really nothing like a zoo. These animals are pretty much free to roam wild. You don't want to get in the pen with the Tasmanian devil, though. They could kind of take your arm off pretty fast, and but they tend to like to eat stuff that's already dead if given a choice. So, kangaroos, wallabies, all kinds of cool things. Some Cape Barren geese there that you don't see in too many other places. So I think those and the Tasmanian devils are like only available to see there. And what else? Had a great hamburger at the Copping Road stand, I think it was called. Coppin, maybe. Anyway, so did get to see a little bit of the countryside. Beautiful. And then Saturday, and then Friday, we went to a really cool museum, except for, there was one thing that didn't work out. Well, there were so many cool exhibits there called MONA, the Museum of Old and New Art. And this is the kind of place where there are hundreds of things you can do, and almost every one of them you could spend an hour at. So it was really hard knowing that we were very pressed for time to try to get just an overview, when there was stuff that I thought, oh man, I could have spent a half an hour at. They had a exhibit of Vermeer thing. If anybody has seen the movie Tim's Vermeer, it's really neat about the artist Johannes Vermeer, Dutch from the 17th century, I believe, and he just did things with paint that it didn't seem really possible at the time. And the movie Tim's Vermeer has got somebody like me who has no painting ability trying to paint a Vermeer with mechanical and technical assists. It's pretty cool. And so anyway, they had a whole exhibit of this, and you could kind of work with the mirrors and do this other stuff that seems like what he was doing. So I could have spent a long time there. And then there was this cool exhibit with metronomes that unfortunately I had to just fly through twice, and I didn't get a chance to stop. So that was my only complaint about the museum. It's if I get a chance to go back, it's like it'd probably take 3 or 4 days to go through there. It's like going to the Louvre or something. What are you going to see? Do you rush over and see the Mona Lisa? And I don't know. Anyway, so that was Friday. Saturday, had a kind of quiet day. Headed out to the airport about 3 o'clock. The flight was 3, I think. No, the flight was 5:30. Yeah. Anyway, left in the mid-afternoon and got to no problem getting from Hobart to Melbourne, except that what was going on in Melbourne that night was their grand final of the football season there, and just like the Super Bowl here in the United States, which meant the town was packed. They have a stadium that holds 100,000 people, and so went, which was not really a problem since I was kind of getting on an international flight that night at 10 o'clock, supposedly. Well, that's where the problem came in. That plane was deemed not worthy, and finally at 1 o'clock in the morning, they decided, to send us all to hotels. So they gave us vouchers for cab fare, and about 3 o'clock I ended up in a hotel somewhere. I don't even remember the cab ride. I just remember us waking up in the back seat of the cab, and we're there. Turns out it had been about a 45-minute ride, and I'm getting left in an alley in the middle of Melbourne somewhere. And anyhow, it was called the Punt Hill North Bank, I think. So if you want to look that up, that's where I was on what turned out to be Saturday night, and then finally Sunday night. We were supposed to leave at 3 o'clock Sunday afternoon now, only like 18 hours after it was supposed to leave. Unfortunately, the plane still wasn't ready. So they packed us all like sardines now into the next night's flight, which left about 10 o'clock. So it was a long day in Melbourne, and just didn't get a chance to see any of it except a lot of the airport. Got a few naps in, and then came in San Francisco, got landed a little after 7 o'clock Sunday night here, and things got almost back to normal, but I had a week's worth of stuff to catch up on. Okay. There we go. That's one that I can always whip out and play. Let's see if I can do. Nah, never mind. Okay, that's enough. I think for October 5th. Did I have anything else to tell you about the story? No. I mean the adventure. Did manage to put new strings on the guitar a couple days ago, but have not even had any time to play it. So today I'm playing the guitar for the rest of the afternoon. So don't bother me. Wait a minute. I am going to try to work on more lessons on instrumentals like that. That sounds like a good plan. Okay, that's my my October 5th resolution, which might be superseded by the October 6th resolution when that comes around, like tomorrow. Okay, back next week.